obviously the main part of the budget that most people, whether you're close to the General Assembly or not, first thing you'll hear people talk about is what to do with the surplus or some of the surplus that the Commonwealth of Virginia has. I'm quite certain Governor Youngkin thinks that money belongs back into the hands of the people.
Correct.
And maybe some on the other side think that they may know better what to do with the people's money than the people. So address that, and then what other roadblocks are there to finalizing this budget?
Well, I think you described exactly what's going on. I mean, perfectly. I mean, that's why you'll make a great senator. What we have is three differences in a budget. The governor hands down the amendments to the first year budget and the second year biennium. He had, because we had such a surplus, over $1 billion of tax relief going back to the citizens because, as he says, it's their money. Mm-hmm. And that was reflected in the House budget. The governor sent down his amendments. They crafted a budget in the House, mostly incorporating every single one of the governor's ideas. And on the Senate side, they had no tax relief for hardworking Virginia citizens. They had a lot of spending projects that were, what they like or in their progressive agenda.
Plenty of South Side, and you're part of Virginia too, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we'll talk about one of the bills that didn't get funded, one of my bills, but they were absolutely differing budgets to the point where when they got back together, we appoint conferees, we pass our own budgets in each chamber,
I know,
send them over,
reject
it. They have conferees to work out the differences. Those conferees, unfortunately, are people of leisure mostly, older senators and House of Delegate members, maybe not working, maybe don't have the kind of schedule I have or other people that have jobs who want this done and willing to stay a little bit overtime to get it done. But they just couldn't seem to get together and negotiate or talk with any kind of, it was fits and starts with any kind of consistency. They made some headway on certain things and then they bogged down on others. So, they started over $1 billion basically apart in spending priorities. They wanted to spend the $1 billion. Republicans wanted to give it back to the people. And so when you start out like that, it's going to be a long, bumpy road. But when they put also in there in the budget in the Senate side, the Democrat-controlled Senate side, stripping out money for the lieutenant governor, stripping out money for the attorney general. I mean, that's just politically petty. Yeah. And, so you come to the table with your attitude, but your attitude is that you're not going to have a lot of good faith negotiation going on. And that's the problem. And so that's why when we left and we adjourned sine die, which is dissolving the body, we did so without a budget amendment, an amended second year plan. We're going to have to come back. Could be next week, could be in a couple months, could be whatever. And who knows what we're going to get as they negotiate while we're out of session. But ultimately, it demonstrates that we just can't seem to work together like we should. And we're looking at a re-election year for most of these 140. There's dozens of people who are retiring who've been there for a while. You're going to see about 40, 50 new faces in the Senate and the House combined. It's going to be a whole new year, a whole different process, a lot less institutional knowledge left on the field. And I think we need to look at this process in the rearview mirror and say, if 45 days doesn't work, then we should just do 60-day sessions every year. We can slow down the process because in a 45-day session, you're still considering thousands of bills, but we're not giving them the kind of hearing and the examination that we need to because we're constantly working. It's almost like stamping out cookies. We're not looking to see if the stamp on the cookie is right all the time until we get to the floor and then it degrades or explodes or what have you. And sometimes bad bills get passed. So here we go again, not being able to get a budget. We worked really hard. We got hundreds and hundreds of bills that were passed on to the governor, but it still feels like a failure.
Know you better than I do anybody else in the General Assembly, not so much legislatively speaking, but how you all as a person and how you do your job as an attorney in your private practice. It's got to irritate you to no end to leave and not finish the job.
Right. It's like going through a jury trial, putting on your case, making your closing argument, and the jury never comes back.
Yeah.
And you have to go home. It's not right. And it's abrogating our responsibilities to Virginia. Sit down, get it done. I was more than willing to extend the session. And yet most of these politicians wanted to go back to their district to end the session because when they end the General Assembly session, they can start raising money. They can't raise money when the General Assembly is in regular session.